You say something simple. Put your shoes on, buddy. And your toddler looks at you, tightens up a little, and says one word. No. You try again. Come here for a second. No. It's bath time. No. Do you want your snack? No. The weird part is that sometimes, just a minute earlier, they wanted the exact thing they're now refusing. You mention going to the park and they light up, but when it's actually time to get ready, they suddenly turn away and say no like it's the worst idea in the world. If you have a 2- or 3-year-old, you've probably lived this scene more times than you can count, and after a while, it can start to feel personal. Your child hears you, they understand you, they look straight at you, and still refuse. So a lot of parents come to the same conclusion. My kid is being stubborn. My kid is being difficult. My kid is fighting me on everything. Or maybe even worse, I must be doing something wrong. But developmental psychology tells a different story, because in many cases, when a toddler says no to everything, what you're seeing is not a bad child, and it's usually not manipulation either. What you're actually seeing is a very young brain discovering one of its first real powers in life, the power to resist, the power to separate, the power to say, I'm not just part of you, I'm me. That's what makes this stage so frustrating and so important at the same time. For most of early childhood, life happens to a child. Adults pick them up, put them down, dress them, feed them, move them from one place to another, decide when they sleep, what they wear, where they go. Then, somewhere around age 2, something starts to change. A toddler begins to realize they have preferences. They want this cup, not that cup. They want to walk over there, not here. They want to press the button, open the door, hold the spoon, choose the snack, do it themselves. And then they discover that one tiny word can stop the adult world in its tracks. No. To adults, that word sounds like defiance, but for many toddlers, no is one of the first tools they have to express a separate self. They may not have the language to say, I want more control. They may not be able to say, I'm not ready yet, or I wanted to do that myself, or I don't like being rushed, or I'm overwhelmed right now. So instead, they use the shortest, strongest word they've got. That one word can mean a lot of things. Sometimes it means, I don't want this, but sometimes it means, I want to choose. Sometimes it means, I'm tired. Sometimes it means, I need more time. Sometimes it means, I wanted to do it myself. And sometimes it simply means, I need to feel like I have some say in what's happening to me. That's why toddlers often say no, even to things they clearly like. You ask, do you want a cookie? They say no. 2 minutes later, they're crying because they wanted the cookie. You ask, do you want to go outside? They say no. 5 minutes later, they're standing at the door asking to go out. To adults, that feels irrational. But to a toddler, the deeper issue is often not the cookie or the park. It's control. It's choice. It's the feeling of being the one who decides. And that's where parents can get tripped up, because it can feel like your child is trying to make your life harder. But most of the time, they're not fighting against you. They're fighting for a sense of self inside a world that is still mostly run by adults. Think about how many directions toddlers get in a single day. Wake up, sit here, eat this, don't touch that, put that down, come here, let's go, time for bath, time for bed. Of course, those instructions make perfect sense from an adult point of view, but if you're a tiny human just discovering independence, the whole day can start to feel like one long stream of commands coming at you from the outside. And if you've only recently realized that you even have a voice, you're probably going to use it a lot. This also has a lot to do with the brain. At this age, the parts of the brain that help with impulse control, flexibility, emotional regulation, and self-control are still very immature. In simple terms, toddlers have huge feelings and very little braking power. When something feels wrong, too fast, too forced, or too controlling, the reaction comes quickly. Not after careful thought, not after a calm internal debate, it just bursts out. No. That's why so many parents feel like their child reacts before they even finish the sentence. Because often, the reaction is not coming from a mature reasoning. It's coming from a feeling state. The toddler brain is fast, emotional, and easily overwhelmed. It doesn't yet have the systems it needs to pause, reflect, and cooperate the way adults hope it will. But here's something even more important, and this may change the way you see your child. Toddlers say no the most with the people they feel safest with. That sounds backwards, but it explains something so many parents say. My child is fine for everyone else. They can be sweet with grandparents, cooperative at daycare, polite in public, and then come home and fight everything. It can feel like they save their worst behavior just for you. But from a psychological point of view, what's often happening is that your child's nervous system knows home is where it can let go. Home is where they can stop holding it together. Home is where they can push, protest, fall apart, and show the feelings they've been carrying around all day. That doesn't make it easier, but it does change what the behavior means. Your toddler may not be resisting you because they don't trust you. In many cases, they resist you the most because you are their safest place. Another big reason toddlers start saying no to everything is overload. Adults tend to judge the moment at face value. You say, "Time for a bath," your child says no, and it looks like they just don't want a bath. But for toddlers, the real issue is often much bigger than the thing happening right now. Maybe they're tired. Maybe they're hungry. Maybe they were deeply focused on play and now they're being asked to stop. Maybe they've had too much stimulation, too much noise, too much change, too many demands. A grown adult can sometimes think, "I'm tired, but I'll do this anyway." Toddlers usually can't. They just feel the discomfort. They feel pushed. They feel out of balance. And the fastest way they know to push back is to say no. That's one reason this behavior often gets worse later in the day, around transitions, during schedule changes, or when a child is already running low on energy. It's not always that your child is getting worse, it's often that their ability to cope is getting smaller. And that brings us to one of the biggest hidden triggers behind the word no: transitions. A lot of toddlers are not actually reacting to the thing you're asking them to do. They're reacting to the shift itself, going from playtime to dinner, from dinner to bath, from bath to pajamas, from the playground to the car, from being with mom to saying goodbye. Adults move through these transitions all day without thinking much about them. Toddlers often can't. So when your child says no, it may not mean "I hate bath time." It may mean "I'm not ready to stop playing." It may not mean "I don't want to go to bed." It may mean "I'm not ready for this day to end." It may not mean "I don't want your help." It may mean "I wanted to do that part myself." Once you start seeing your toddler through that lens, so much of their behavior starts to make more sense. Not because it becomes easy, but because you stop taking it so personally. And that shift matters, because one of the things that wears parents down the most is not just the behavior itself, it's the meaning they attach to it. When your child says no, you might hear, "They don't respect me," or "They're trying to control me," or "They're making this hard on purpose." But if you translate toddler behavior into developmental language, the message often sounds very different. "I need more autonomy." "I'm overwhelmed." "I'm not ready." "I want to do it myself." "I don't have the words for this yet." That is a completely different message. And when the message changes, your whole response can change too. There's another truth adults forget all the time. Toddlers do not always know why they're saying no. We often imagine that kids have a clear reason, a clear plan, a clear strategy, but many times they don't. Their brain is simply reacting to a feeling: pressure, frustration, overwhelm, loss of control. The no comes first. The explanation, if it comes at all, comes much later. That's why asking over and over, "Why are you saying no?" usually doesn't get you very far. Not because your child is trying to be impossible, but because they genuinely may not be able to explain what's happening inside them. Their experience is real, but their language is still limited.
This is also why such a small moment can explode so fast. It starts with shoes, or brushing teeth, or getting into the car. But then suddenly it turns into crying, screaming, flopping on the floor, throwing things, acting like the world is ending. To an adult, that feels completely out of proportion. But once a toddler's emotional system gets activated, once they feel pushed past their limit, it stops being about the shoes. It becomes about autonomy, overload, frustration, and a brain that does not yet know how to hold all of that together. So, if your toddler has been saying no to nearly everything lately, what are they really telling you? They may be telling you that they're growing. They may be discovering independence. They may be testing out their first real sense of self. They may need more choices inside safe limits. They may be tired, overwhelmed, or struggling with transitions. They may want more control than their little world allows. And sometimes, more than anything else, they may be saying something deeply human. Please understand me before you try to fix me. That might be the most powerful part of this stage. Behind all the defiance, many toddlers are just tiny people trying to survive very big feelings with very small tools. They want to do things themselves, but they still want to be held. They want independence, but they still need connection. They want to push you away with no, but they don't want to lose your closeness. That's part of what makes this age so emotionally hard for parents. Your child is sending two opposite signals at once. They push back, but they still need you. They want control, but they can't handle too much of it. They want to be their own person, but they still need your nervous system, your calm, your structure, and your safety. And that's why your response matters. Not because you have to be perfect. You won't be. No parent is. There will be days when you lose your patience, days when you feel helpless, days when you want to scream, "Why is everything a battle right now?" That doesn't make you a bad parent. It makes you a human raising a toddler. But when you understand what's underneath the word no, something shifts. You stop seeing your child as a tiny enemy and start seeing what's really there. A young brain in the middle of a huge developmental leap. A child practicing the first rough version of selfhood. A little person using the simplest tool they have to say, "I'm here too." So the next time you say, "Let's put on your shoes," and you hear a very firm no coming back from across the room, try to remember that what you may be seeing is not just stubbornness. You may be watching a developmental milestone, a need for autonomy, a tired nervous system, a child trying to hold on to a tiny piece of control in a world that still feels very big. Your toddler is not always trying to make your life harder. Very often, they are having a hard time in the exact way toddlers do. And that little word, as exhausting as it can be, may sometimes be their clumsy way of saying, "I'm growing. I'm trying to become my own person. I don't know how to explain this better. Please see what's underneath this." If this changed the way you see your toddler's no, subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments when your child says no the most. Is it at bedtime, bath time, mealtime, or when it's time to leave you? Because a lot of these behaviors are deeply connected, and if your toddler has also been having huge meltdowns over tiny things lately, that's not a separate issue at all. It's closely tied to everything we talked about today, and that's exactly what the next video is about.